Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the aftermath for Republic of Ireland nil, Luxembourg nil in Luxembourg. And feel free to get your comments in. As you can see, there's a tab there where you can get your comments in and leave your thoughts on the game. An underwhelming game, a real pre-season friendly vibe off the game. But I suppose we'll start off with the lineup. And yeah, it was a similar lineup to what I predicted in the starting 11 show. Just a couple of minor changes up front to Troy Parrott and Evan Ferguson going with a front two rather than a 4-3-3. Went with a 4-4-2. And Ryan Manning was dropped to the bench, and so was Adam Ida, and Troy Parrott and Evan Ferguson came in. But Jake O'Brien at right back, I thought that was a good call. It was good to kind of see how he would adapt there. Obviously, he's played there a lot for Everton this season, but to see how he was going to adapt there playing for Ireland, and kind of because he seems to have his two there in centre back as Darragh O'Shea and Nathan Collins, which I have no problem with. But it's good to see Jake getting in there as well. Robbie Brady was the right call at left back, I thought, as well. So look, I had no complaints with the back four. And Max O'Leary, as I said in the starting 11 show, he was then picked as the goalkeeper, and I actually thought he done quite well. I actually thought he done himself no harm in terms of being a backup. In terms of if anything happens to Caoimhín Keller at the moment, you're looking at that next keeper. Who's that going to be? Either Travers or Max O'Leary, because Bazuna's out injured. So you'd be saying to yourself, it's going to be tough for any of the goalkeepers to get in. Unfortunately, some of the other players didn't get on at all, like Josh Honohan and Josh Keeley, but in midfield, I thought it was the right call to go with Killian Phillips as well. I thought he done quite well. But again, it was an underwhelming game. It looked like a lot of lads just were living for the break. It was a very feisty game as well. Actually, I thought, Troy Parrott getting in a number of little scuffles here and there. Nathan Collins as well towards the end. There was a lot of scuffles, a lot of, I suppose, counterattacks prevented people taking yellow cards and taking one for the team. I think there might have been more than a yellow if it was a normal game and not a friendly. But look, there wasn't too much going on in the first half. Sudani has a good effort that's saved by Max O'Leary, and he had a lot of space there and probably should have been closed down, but he didn't really do much else, did he? Or Luxembourg, we limited them to very little, to be honest with you. Although they did look dangerous at times, they were really good on the press in terms of getting at our players and suffocating our players when they had the ball. But in terms of their offensive play, they didn't really have too much. And as I said, Sudani forced a save, but it was a standard enough save by Max O'Leary. And then towards the end of the half, when we didn't really look like we deserved anything, it was Nathan Collins got a header who kind of hit the bar, the crossbar. I'm not sure exactly where it hit, but it hit the woodwork. And that was just before half time. That gave us a little bit of hope that in the second half then things were going to pick up and we were going to start to maybe get a hold on the game. But it just wasn't to be. Like it was that sort of the manager. I watched his interview after the game before I jumped on, and he kind of said he wasn't happy with the performance, and even if they had won, he wouldn't have been happy with the performance, which is good to hear the honesty from him as well. And then he said like the players needed to pick up the pace and the tempo in the second half, and I thought they did that. I mean, the halftime thoughts were, okay, look, we've hit the woodwork. It's time to, get back into the game and start looking like we're the dominant team here. Because I know Luxembourg had a lot of the possession, but we just didn't really do anything with the possession that we had. And then, just after half time, Casey McAteer goes on that drive and run, and yeah, he's unlucky again. But I think he needs to show a bit more composure in and around the box, in my opinion. He had another chance where he went in, the ball was played in behind him, and he snatches at it instead of just taking it on his head or taking it on his chest and driving maybe across the defender, maybe drawing a foul for a penalty or a free kick or something like that. But he just seems to kind of just be snatching at chances. Really impressed with him against Senegal, but tonight kind of brought expectations back down again, I would say. And then they went up the other end and had an effort by Jans that was prevented by Jason Knight. That was a good block by him. I thought that was impressive by our lads, like despite the fact that it was a real pre-season vibe. Our defence did always kind of come in clutch and didn't allow them to get much at like a proper shot off at Max O'Leary. So yeah, and then around the 52nd minute, I'm just reading there my notes, Manning with a great ball in to I think it was at the right hand side. someone got the header on it. But it comes to Parrott anyway, and it looks as though he handballs it, and he was trying to backheel it in, unfortunately. So maybe if he had got that first time. Then Taylor came on for Smallbone, and Festi came on for Phillips. Again, Festi struggled to get into the game. No one gave him the ball out that right-hand side. I thought we could have got the ball out to him more. And then Troy Parrott scores an offside goal that was unlucky, in my opinion. It was a great finish. I would have loved if that had stood. And then McAteer, as I said, snatched at that chance. So, and then towards the end of the game, Jack Taylor obviously hits the crossbar. That's kind of, in terms of our chances, he absolutely rattled the crossbar, and you would have hoped that he could, if he scores that, does that kind of paper over the cracks? I don't think there are any cracks. I mean, look, the manager's been in the team for 10 games, managing the team. We've had probably 2 really bad performances in that time. And you're going to count this one as the really bad one. So I'd probably say 1 bad performance, the England one, the second half, because the first half was good. So I think, look, the manager, in my opinion, is getting a tune out of the players. This one, I would forgive it just for being end of season. The players want to get off on a break. And I don't think that they didn't put the effort in, because they did. But it looked like it's just been a long season for a lot of them, and they were just leggy. And that can happen. And these June friendlies, I never really understand them, the kind of point of them at this time of the year. Players finish the season and they have to come back in after being away, and then they come back in to do a camp to play an international, and you can't see the best of them. It's just a pointless part of the game, in my opinion. Pointless part of international football. It doesn't really need to be done around now. Like, if it was towards the end of June or something like that, leading into people's pre-seasons, then it would make a bit more sense. But the fact of the matter is, the players finish the season, then they come back in, and then it's like, okay, we're in for this sort of little camp that means very little. I understand the manager gets to work with the players for a little bit longer, and that's good from our point of view. But it's just, in terms of when you're actually watching the game, the quality goes down an awful lot, and it's unfortunate. And he brings on John Patrick Finn in the 90th minute. I'm not sure why, but I think it was a tough game. I think I'm actually glad he didn't bring him on early, because if he had a bad game, I think it dims people's expectations of John Patrick Finn quite early, and you don't really want that. Irishman, hello everyone, hello Irishman. But yeah, so it is unfortunate in a sense that we didn't win the game. But at the same time, we played badly, and they didn't really get much on us as well. So is that a positive? I don't know what way you'd look at it. I mean, fans are fickle enough. If we're not winning games or whatever, some people just don't see how the whole thing is. I mean, I thought we defended quite well. I actually forgot to mention Matt Doherty's late challenge. It was a brilliant slide tackle to prevent the Luxembourgians, is that a word? From scoring. I thought that was a brilliant tackle. People have questioned his how much he cares and stuff like that, but I think he showed that he does care, and that he showed great attitude. I think since the new managers came in, obviously he was dropped for a while, but since the Wolves manager came in as well, I think he's shown a great attitude, and he's led by example. I think to younger players, to show that if you do lose the shirt, you can be annoyed and you can be aggrieved, but handle it in the right way. And although he did do interviews and he felt like he should have been in there, I mean, you can't really deny him that, like, if Seamus Coleman's not around, then you would probably say Matt Doherty has to be in there, and he's probably playing better than Seamus Coleman because he's playing and Seamus isn't. And we don't know what's going to happen with Seamus, but I think Seamus would be a great loss to this side. But I did think that we've seen it in Hallgrimsson's 10 games so far. I do think we've seen a real growth of Nathan Collins in that captain role. Thought he was excellent again tonight. And look, we're playing with a bit of a second string side again. People probably forget that too. I mean, Finn Azaz wasn't in the team, who it looks like someone is going to be a really big player for us. Queven Gallagher obviously wasn't in goal, but I don't think it would have mattered today. So we're still missing some players. There's players still to come back. Evan Ferguson looks as though, he was blowing after about 20 minutes. Lack of fitness, lack of game time, that's going to come down to that again. Adam Ida looked a bit off it when he came on as a sub, unfortunately. So look, it's I think what Hagums has done though is he's had a squad now that he can look at, and he goes, right, okay, I know who I can trust, and I know, he doesn't need to be coming in and making wild decisions and, bringing on wild players. I don't think he'll personally play John Patrick Finn in any qualifiers. I don't think he said he's not ready. So it was just a good game to bring him in and look at him. So I think that's what he's done. Hoops Till I Die says, why did Josh Honohan not get a single minute in the 2 games? What's the point in calling up LOI players and not playing them? I don't think it's as straightforward as that. Hoops, can I call it that? I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I do think that it's tough on the manager, because if Honohan makes an error in this game and we lose this game, his international career could be over. So I think the fact of the matter, what the manager was probably looking to do was hoping that we'd win the game, or we win the game 2 or 3-0, and bring on Honohan towards the end of the game and give him a cap. I think that's what his thinking was. The fact that it was 0-0 for so long, I think that's why it was just too tight of a game that it could have went either way. And if he brings him on, then he's the scapegoat. And I think he's actually protecting Honohan rather than throwing him in the deep end. I don't think Rovers fans will appreciate that or be happy about that, and I understand that, because obviously they want a Rovers player playing in the national team to represent them and I suppose the league as well. But I can see it from both sides, if I'm being honest. I would have liked to see him, but I don't think the setting was right to see him on this occasion. So I get it, but at the same time, yeah, it's a bit disappointing for Honohan and probably Josh Keeley as well. I mean, it would have been nice to see how he would have fared maybe in the second half had we been a couple of goals up. That could have been good to see. But I thought Max O'Leary, I said it already earlier in the stream, that I thought he was quite good, and I think he hasn't done himself any harm in terms of future squads and potentially playing. Irishman says not good enough. Yeah. Again, I would just excuse it for the time of the season that it is. I wouldn't be reading too much into it. Look, we're 4 games unbeaten now. So, maybe more, but I think it's 4 games unbeaten now. So let's just build on the momentum there. And we've won 2 games against Bulgaria. We've drawn against Senegal. We've drawn against Finland. And I haven't checked our last matches before then. I'll probably check them now. So just hang on there 1 second. I'll check out our games, and then I'll see how many games we're actually unbeaten of the 10 that Hallgrimsson has been in charge of. But the only ones that spring to mind are Greece. We obviously beat Finland. England, losing to England twice, which we were probably always going to do anyway. And then, yeah, so our last match before Bulgaria games was the England game. But we beat Finland twice, and we lost against Greece, of course. So yeah, that's kind of been the tale of the games so far. But look, we're against the teams that we are supposed to compete with, and in and around their level we've beaten. Or we obviously drew with Senegal. People say that's the B team, whatever. It is what it is. But overall, when we're looking at it, I think you'll say he hasn't done a bad job so far. As I said, Greece are better level than a lot of people think. England are obviously England, and they compete in finals in European competitions and all of that. And they're usually favourites in World Cups and stuff like that. So they're a class above us at the moment. So I get why we lost those games. But look, Hallgrimsson, I think he has our team playing with an identity. And I think once we have our strongest 11, and he's built a bit of a squad there as well. So we know that there's players that can come off the bench like Festi that can affect the game. Of the 3 strikers he really likes, you can see he likes them all. Hasn't settled on a striker, but that's fine, because I want him to play with players that play in form. And I think he's done that well over the time in which that we've played. So look, that's been my thoughts on it. I'm not as disappointed as maybe other people are, but people always say to me that I need to rant and rave, but I have to look at it on both sides of the coin and say it was the end of the season. There's not much to say more about it. Should we have won? Possibly. Could we have won? We could have won 2-0 and still played so badly. So how many times have we been sitting here in the past and we've done okay, and we have lost the game? So look, we didn't lose the game, so that's the way I'm treating it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and any other content that you'd like to see from us, don't leave it in the comments, and we'll speak to you soon. All right, thanks for watching. See you.